I'm very happy to once again have this opportunity to be with you here this morning, and it's good to see all of you. It's been, I think, a few months since the last time I was here, and as you know, so much has happened all around the world. Our True Parents pushing forward. Starting this morning, we have the 40-city speaking tour that True family members will participate in. And True Children have been organizing that and discussing who will be speaking in which cities and making a schedule and preparing. And that starts this morning in the Chicago region in Indianapolis, and Hyojin will be flying there very shortly to go there. So we should all be thinking about him this morning. And of course, we all know that he's going to do a fantastic job there, and he'll return, and then next week there'll be 2 more speeches, and then the week after that I think there'll be like 3 or 4 every Saturday and every Sunday as the True Children speak, and at the same time work around their school schedules and midterm schedules and final exam schedules and papers and other responsibilities, or taking care of editing Mother's speeches for all the European countries and South American countries that are coming up. So there is, I can personally tell you, there is a lot on each of the True Children's plate for them to do. Many, many different roles and many different responsibilities that they play all the time, each and every day. And it's not also just the amount of work that they have, but it's also, it's very similar to you, but actually even more so, very, very much frontline, because in 1 hour, they're giving father and mother's speech to people in Los Angeles or Chicago, and then in another day they're working on a midterm in sociology or mathematics, or writing a paper about some topic in history or political science. And of course, they're going to school, which is their front line, representing True family and True parents while they're at school. So there is so much that they do each and every day, and so much about their lives. So when Hyojin asked me to prepare something to say this about 20 minutes ago, and then he asked me, is it too short of a notice? I told him it would be no problem. Whenever I close my eyes and I ask myself, or I ask Heavenly Father desperately, what should I speak of? Always, as many of you already know, my favorite topic all the time is to talk about True Children. And that is where my life connects into the True family. That is where I have most of my give and take. And I share the heartache with the True Children, because so much of the True Children's lives is without father and mother. So I spend a lot, maybe more time with father and mother than what members do. But when I am with the True Children, I'm actually more with them than I am with parents, because actually parents doesn't have so much opportunity to spend time with their own children. So there's that deep heartache all the time and longing that the True Children have. This is really, the age of the completed Testament era. That means the Messiah is coming forth in the form of our True parents, and the future destiny of that Messiahship will be falling into the responsibilities of True family. So we are at a tremendous transition point in history, and there are so many parallels that we can make with Old Testament and New Testament, which can help us and help clarify where we are going and where we have been. We know about the period of wandering, like the Israelites for 40 years, or the period of the wilderness that we are coming out of at this point. But a lot of the parallels are going to be coming to an end, and because we're entering uncharted territory, in a sense, uncharted territory. And when you enter uncharted territory, you need an admiral, you need a general, and that is our True parents. But of course, in any large movement and large organization, you need those who know how to attend the highest level of central figures, to attend our true parents, and to effectuate their will. And those people in our movement and for the sake of this world are the true family members, are the true children themselves. That's why they're here. And whenever I think about what I should talk about or what I can share with brothers and sisters, I always think about true children, and I always try to think about some of the experiences that I've had, or some of the ups and downs, or the heartaches or victories that they've gone through that you don't know about, and to really kind of share that with you. Many Hyojinim and other true children have been coming here and sharing with you directly. So I think that over the last few years, you've been getting to know them much more so than you had prior to that. But so many of them you haven't even seen here, and so many of them, have yet to come and stand before you here. In these particular speeches, Father and all the members of the true family have decided to reach down in the true family, all the way down to Kwanjinim and Sanjinim. So in these 40 city tours, they're very much urged on by their older brothers and sisters to say, well, you're clearly old enough, and this is a good time in your life to start this. And so Kwanjinim, as you know, is a freshman in college, so it's first year in college, and he's working very hard. And Sanjinim is in high school still. So it's a big challenge to her. It was, needless to say, very shocking news, and absolutely terrified for the first few moments, and was saying no, and then Injinim says, don't even say no. It's very important. She was saying to her, in your heart we have our fears, we have our reservations, we have our work. But Injinim was advising her, said, certain things can run through your mind, but you shouldn't go so far as to make the condition to say no. So he said, Sanjin, I know you're worried, I know you're nervous, but don't even say that, because when you really think about it, your true heart will come around to the fact that you have to do it. But that if she really thinks about it, she will want to do it. She'll feel privileged to do it. She's saying no because she's very humble. She's thinking, I'm not ready for this. But we know that she's ready for it. So she's not saying no. She's just, I said, are you practicing your speech? And she said, well, because she knows she can't say no. And so it's going to be very exciting. There are going to be members of the true family who will be speaking publicly that have never spoken publicly before, or haven't spoken publicly for a long time. We know that different languages, some of these 40 speeches, even all in America, will be spoken in different languages. I think nobody can right now top Yejinim's Japanese. Some of you Japanese brothers and sisters know, but her Japanese is excellent and by far the best in all the members of the true family. And of course, Hyojinim will do one in Korean for the Korean church or congregation, and then the Spanish one fell on Injinim, so she's practicing one in Spanish that will take place next week somewhere here in New York. So whenever I think about true family, true children, I always think about what they offer us and what they offer the world. And that's why my topic, in their honor, heart of attendance. Heart of attendance. That is the essence of the true family's heart. That is the essence of what they try to live. That's everything about them. If we could understand the heart of attendance, then we could understand true children, and we could understand what they're trying to do and what makes them tick. What's the very essence of every molecule in their body, which is to love true parents, to love their own father and mother. And as they grow up, their love deepens from just a child's love to parents to a responsible, mature adult. And that phrase, heart of attendance, really captures the essence of the transformation between fallen nature and fallen individuals, or first-generation individuals, to ideal or restored or true men and true women. It goes all the way up to Heavenly Father. So even by Father and Mother's own example, they live a life of attendance. They are driven by their desire to attend Heavenly Father. And they literally, each and every day, show us how hard they want to work, and how hard they choose to work, how deep their attendance is, so much that they feel they have no choice but to not sleep and to continue to work as hard as they do because of that heart of attendance. And the depth of that heart of attendance answers many questions as to why they have to do this, what they have to do, why they have to do it, in what way they want to do it. And of course, the essence of true parents coming to the world is to teach mankind how to attend Heavenly Father and how to really harmonize with one another, and for each of us to know our place in our community, in our families, in every setting, in our classrooms or in other groups. There's always a place for everybody. One time, Father defined peace and harmony as when everyone knows their place. When everyone knows their place and how to be. And then, of course, one of the big virtues or advantages of the Asian society is that Asians are always brought up with the consciousness of, where am I? Who's here in this room? Who is my older brother? Who is my older sister? Who is my younger brother? Who is my younger sister? Who is my grandfather? So that, in Korea, and you have it here in America too, the same phenomena, but the heart is slightly different, of course. And one example, of course, is like on a bus or on a subway. Many young people, but it's becoming more and more rare in America, will offer their seat to, let's say, an elderly person on a bus or a subway. It's one of the great virtues, and Americans know that, although it's kind of fading. The young people today don't think so much in those attitudes. But in Korea, but even when they did do that, what were they thinking? Because in Korea, when you do that, you are thinking, this is my grandfather. This strange old man or this strange woman is my grandfather. And so the heart by which you stand up and ask them to sit, or motion sit, you don't know this person, you don't know their name, you don't know their life, you don't know their history, but you know, and you know that you can love this person because you love a grandfather. You have a grandfather that you love and respect. And the analogy is very clear and very simple, so you carry it over. So you see, an elderly woman carrying 2 bags on the bus or subway, and when I was there as I grew up in America, but when I was in Korea and I was on the public transportation, I would see that constantly. And the heart of that was very important. And one of the great values that come from the East is that training that we have. Of course, it's very important training. It can be used, like anything, for selfish reasons and manipulative reasons and political reasons, but the deep heart of what that is all about is merely the heart of recognizing your place. You understand, of course, that there's a Cain attitude and an Abel attitude to that, and that can be just pure manipulation, and you're just there trying to get the most out of it. But at least Asians tend to be a little more deep. Even bad Asian people, not all of them are good. Even bad Asian people, they know how to kind of move in a situation because they see that. They see everything, and more deeply than I would say Western people do in terms of the depth of relationships. So Father once said that harmony and peace comes when everyone, in an ideal sense and in an able-hearted sense, knows their place in that group setting, whether it be your school friends or a football team or MFT team. In every setting, especially in your family setting. In the family, it's so wonderful because it's so clear and it's so natural. You have parents who are like God to you, especially when you're young. And that's how you learn about God. You learn about the universe and about God through your parents. And that was the natural process by which Heavenly Father created this system so that we could all be connected to one another and all be connected to Heavenly Father. So parents are in a position, or in an extended family, grandparents, true parents and grandparents are in a position of Heavenly Father or Spirit World. And when I see the young grandchildren in East Garden now spending so much time with 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 true parents, and they call them grandfather and grandmother, and they go fishing together, and the father calls them my friends, and since some of my children are there too, sometimes I get videos from Alaska, and fathers there with many Japanese brothers and sisters training them either in Alaska or in Korea. And every time mother finishes a speech, and the father just takes so much joy and delight, making sure that all the grandchildren are there. So like Unjanim's daughter is there, and a couple of my children are there, and Hyunjanim's daughter is there as well, and they always get on the microphone and say, "Thank you, mother, for speaking so well." And have any of you seen that video or seen kind of like home videos of that? There's some of them kind of going around, and for father, you can just see for both father and mother, it just brings them a lot of joy, and grandparents and grandchildren, they're just made for each other. There's just the perfect life cycle view where, and our goal, really, true family members' goals is to be able to really take so much responsibility and try to do so much for father and mother that grandparents can rest and relax. And in essence, what they do is they actually take care of the true children's children. And almost, because many of them are busy. Now, Hyojinim is going to, Indianapolis, and we'll be flying all over the place. And, father and mother always say, well, we're going to, we have so much work to do, so can we borrow your children? And father and mother has borrowed Injanim and our children for, I think, the next 5 months. When they went, says, well, we'll see you after Christmas. But it's in a way very wonderful, because where better a place is there for them to be than with grandfather and grandmother. But at the same time, then it kind of, it's like, I have 4 children now, but since father and mother took 2 of them, then it kind of reduces me from 4 children family to a 2 children family, and all of a sudden I can do a lot more work. So it's an interesting situation, grandparents and grandchildren working together like that, and in a way that middle position, which is our age, really, our age group. This is the age of action and mobilization and the arms and legs work. A grandfather and grandmother can sit on top. Of course, father and mother's not resting. It's not going according to the ideal plan, in a sense, because father and mother's still working hard. But it's still good, though, because father and mother can see clearly how much joy that grandchildren bring to them and how much love that they want to give them and let them inherit from them during these precious years. So, in the meantime, we have 2 children who are growing up. Their ages now are from the... Chungjanim is now in the 6th grade, and so she's just out of elementary school, and the school that she goes to, the 6th grade, is called intermediate school. In some schools, that's still the elementary school. But she's growing up very quickly, and Yejinim is over 30, so we have the 2 children still on a very broad range, from being parents and leaders and scholars, and as they are, all the way down to junior high school students. And when you are with them and when you see them, you can see, especially the ones that come here, how absolutely 1,000% committed they are towards father and mother. And when they react, when you watch them, it's far better than me talking about them, because when you watch them, you learn so much about them. You learn what makes them happy. You learn about what makes them angry or unhappy or disturbed. And much of the inputs that we had in our life that taught us when we should be happy, and when we get something, and when we should be unhappy, like when we don't get something, which is a very self-oriented point of view. But one of the things that I've been able to really deeply experience is when I'm with them, is exactly that, because they have a very different perspective. And I'm sure it surprises you many times. Something that totally what seemed insignificant to you would really upset 2 children. And yet, at the same time, something that you maybe overlooked completely really brought them a tremendous amount of hope or inspiration. So we can learn from them, because they see everything from a different perspective. They see everything as it connects to father and mother and what they can do to bring father and mother joy. And it's so natural. It's not like having to try to do it. Right? I mean, the last time I was here, we talked about first generation spirit and second generation spirit. And really, the most important difference between first generation and second generation, not to draw any distinctions, because all pioneers and all first generation brothers and sisters, you're on this journey. And so, like formation, growth, and perfection stage. But the essence or the difference between somebody who goes from a fallen world life and born or reborn into a true ideal world, and of course it doesn't happen. It happens spiritually. It can happen almost all at once in one workshop. But of course, the development of your ideal character and nature and the cleansing of your fallen nature takes many, many years, months and months and months of tackling each and every issue and situation one at a time on the MFT team, on the witnessing team. And recently I had the good fortune of spending some time with a brother who worked very hard for many, many years on MFT. And he admits himself that he probably wasn't the best or most cooperative brother. And but he came back after 1 year, and he was after 1 year he was captain of the MFT team. They made him a captain. I said, so why did they make you a captain? I mean, you must have done something wonderful. And he said, well, there was just no one else to do it, and everyone was going to the Soviet Union or the other places being mobilized, and so I became a captain. But in that 1 year, he grew so much more than he grew in all the maybe 7 or 8 years prior to that, because when he was finally given responsibility, and I was really amazed because he was telling me all his experiences on the MFT team, and it really is true. The MFT time that you serve there is for your sake, not for Father and Mother's sake, and not even for the movement's sake, but for your sake. The brothers and sisters who are on that team, everyone here, we've all fundraised, and many of you have been on MFT, but that really is, and many of you, of course, are very happy that it's part of your past and not part of your present, because you've graduated from it. But the amazing thing about MFT, or fundraising, or that kind of work, it's, he was just saying that how much he grew and how much he was able to challenge fallen nature elements within him and within other brothers and sisters, and the actual transformation. We brought him up to Boston, and together with other members of the MFT, former members of MFT, and we had a little gathering together. Injanim and I was there, and we had a little gathering there for Kwanjanim and Sanjanim and Youngjanim, who are going to school in Boston with us. So we were in the living room talking, and we asked this brother to give a testimony to the younger true children about what MFT is all about. And he said something very interesting. He said, MFT and that kind of dispensation, that kind of formula course, he says, is so amazing. He said, we're so grateful that true parents created MFT, because he said, you know what? That's where a human being, any human being, actually becomes a brother and a sister. That's where that transformation happens, each and every day. And so he was telling us, we asked him to tell us in all the gory details what his van was like, what time he got up, and what time breakfast was, and how 8 people slept in one van by manipulating some board, and he was sleeping across the 2 front seats with the cooler in the middle, and how they would wash up in the McDonald's or the Denny's, and I said, so when you're washing up and in the bathroom, what do people say when they come in? They say, oh, nothing. We just say good morning to them, and we're just washing up and everything. And then we get in our van, and then he was the captain now, so he had to look for. He was the driver. Then he had to look for area, and then he had to deal constantly with brothers and sisters losing inspiration or dealing with some issue. And he said, it was so amazing because I never saw these problems in me until I had to deal with them in others. And because he was given responsibility, and he had to speak words of truth, words handed down to him, generation after generation after generation, coming all the way from Father and Mother, right? I mean, it's amazing. The words that we say to one another came directly from our true parents. So in essence, they're like you're living a life as children of true parents. And we know the stories of the very first fundraiser was Father. The very first one to pick up a paintbrush and create product out of pieces of wood, remember those stories, was Father. And Father would say, hey, this is a good idea, low overhead and easy to, good mobility. And so I was talking to this brother, and I said, so we're talking about 7 individuals, including him, 8. 8 people living in a van, going all over the country. And after he finished the story, I just was so amazed. I said, that sounds so great. You guys were so lucky. You guys were that sounds so fantastic. How many people, young people in America today, or how many of the hippies back, how many of you, when you were teenagers, wanted to just up and go? But you wanted to up and go, but do something ideal. Right? That's what all the hippie movement was all about in the 60s. And they did up and go, and they created little vans. They liked vans, right? And they traveled around in vans, but without parents, it's always chaos. Without parents, it's always chaos. So without parents, they forgot to get haircuts, and they stopped shaving, and they didn't take showers. MFT captain saying, you gotta take a shower, you gotta wash up, and be back here, and let's study divine principle, and then let's do something constructive. Let's do something for America, and for the providence. That was the essence of many of you older ones who are now like 30s and 40s. When you were in the 60s and 70s, that was your dream, wasn't it? That was your heart, and it seems like in developed countries, especially like in America, that is the dream of young people. I mean, so much freedom. In America, you grow up with so much freedom that you don't know what to do with it. And you get so much freedom, and yet you want more. And because you grew up with physical parents, by the time you were teenagers, you looked at your physical parents, and there may or may not have been love, but there wasn't so much inspiration or motivation. That you felt, even if you had good parents who loved you, you felt there had to be something more. So how many, even some of the true children, some of them, I remember my long talks with Hung Jin Im, and how much he just wanted to just go. All I need is my blue jeans and my jacket, and go to Africa, and that would be the ideal mission for him. He constantly talked about, to Father and Mother, if I could just get the worst mission, the mission nobody wants, that's what I want. And no luxuries, no water, no toilet paper, nothing. He just wants to, all I need is my, a pocket knife so I can kill a lizard once in a while and eat it or something. But so I said to this MFT brother, what an amazing experience. How lucky can you get? It's like the ideal Peace Corps, which we kind of had the Peace Corps in America for a while, created I think back with President Johnson or Eisenhower, and that was to mobilize the young people and get them to do something constructive, and that didn't really go anywhere. Although it did do constructive things around the world, but I'll tell you, there's nothing more exciting than being a member of this movement. You travel a lot, and you see the sights, but at the same time, you work for something greater, and you work to build something. Well, look what happened to all your fellow hippies, who didn't quite hook up with the Messiah. And they lived in communes, and drugs and sex, rock and roll, right? It just completely disintegrated, right? Wasn't it? Didn't it? But if you really think about it, and if you look at Father's speech and Mother's speech that they're giving, had everything gone in the high road? Right now we had to go the low road. But had we gone the high road, then Father would have been here in the 60s. And all those people born at that time were prepared. Never in America's history, no matter how much I read, we don't see this phenomena. And even today, young people are different than the young people that you were in 1960s and 70s in this country. It was an amazing spirit. So many young people just packed up their backpack and went to San Francisco or went to California or went walking around in Europe. And had Father been able to come originally, when he would have come, probably a decade or two earlier, he would have hooked up with this ideal group, and it would have been amazing. And now, instead, it disintegrated. It completely disintegrated. Your lives, first generation people, were disintegrating from the testimonies I hear and some of the pictures that I see of you with hair down to here and on your motorcycles. Right? Your lives were disintegrating too. But those precious few of you who have the privilege to be here in this room, you just ask yourself, where would you want to be? But it's such an exciting, that must have been such an exciting time. And so I told this brother, that how grateful he should be for that experience. And I really meant it. I didn't want to be condescending, because everyone knows MFT life is hard, but especially for year after year after year. I like the way CARP does it, because right when you enter MFT, in CARP they say, well, it's 3.5 years or 40 months, or there's some set time period. They kind of stick to that, which is good. But those champions of you who are on MFT for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, it's amazing, an amazing time. That is your transformation from the external world into the internal world, and all the battles and struggles, motivating your physical body and getting along with your brothers and sisters in a tight squeezed little van and trying to create some kind of a result every day. That's your battle. And your fundamental spiritual battle it no longer is, I'm sure, but is true parents really my parents? That was your battle, right? People were telling you, and MFT captains were telling you, and workshop lecturers were telling you that the true parents are your spiritual parents. They are your parents, and they are the parents of all of mankind. And for first generation, that's conceptual. That's like theory. That's theoretical. And unless you live it, and unless Father lives it, it's like a two-way covenant or promise from God and to mankind. And of course, representing God as true parents. Two things have to happen to be able to hook up with the Messiah. There has to be a Messiah who says, I will accept you and receive you as my sons and daughters, and work as much as I can to love you and to help you and to raise you up. That we take for granted many times, but that is actually the essence. Without that, then it could never happen. No matter how much you want it to be a true son or a true daughter of the Heavenly Father, all the monks and the saints and the nuns and the people who gave up their lives in Christianity and in other faiths, it can't happen, no matter how hard they try. And yet it can happen here in this room, in the unification movement, because we have parents, and we not only have parents, but we have parents willing to accept us as adopted children, like, rebellious teenagers off the street. And parents are basically saying, you can come into my home and we will love you like a son or a daughter. And then, of course, the other side of the covenant is our efforts to want to live as a son and a daughter and to try to hold on to that concept. So if you have parents who you are trying to love, and the parents' position is saying, get out of here. Who are you? I don't know you. I have my children. I don't know you. Then it's impossible. But we have parents who are saying, come, I'll take care of you. I'll take care of you. And then our side of the bargain, or our side of the promise or covenant from Heavenly Father and true parents, is we have to try to live as their son and daughter. Now, how easy is it to be able to try to live as a son and daughter when you have parents who just love you and train you and give you so much? You know how many times father and mother define true love? How do they define true love? Coming back even after you've been kicked, even after you've been pushed away. Right? It's kind of a paradox, because I just said that if you had parents who were pushing you away and kicking you away and saying, I don't know you and get away from me, it'd be impossible. And if that was parents' heart, then it would be impossible to become sons and daughters of Heavenly Father and true parents. But that's not their attitude. But the reason why Father defines true love as always wanting to come back, even when that person you're trying to love is kicking you away, is because life makes you feel that way all the time. Father and Mother's heart is not like that. But Father and Mother's heart is so deep. Literally, even sometimes true children feel like Father and Mother's pushing them too hard or kicking them away. Father and Mother's heart is so deep, and Father and Mother's mission is so high that sometimes life can trick us into feeling like, oh, gee, what's happening here? First of all, the fundamental fact is that Father and Mother never spends time with two children. I mean, what do you think that makes them feel like? That makes them feel like neglected, being kicked away. And the essence of true love is, that doesn't faze you. You still love true parents. How many times does it faze us when a central figure or even some concept or some, let's say even, in some vicious situation where you hear lies about father and mother in the public media or deprogramming session or whatever? How many times does that kind of get you, like, hey, is that true? Or I don't like this situation, or my central figure. How many times have I heard brothers and sisters, this is really sad. Brothers and sisters who've left, right? They always say the same thing. It wasn't true parents, but it was the leaders or the church or the mission. or my back, or whatever. Right? They never say it's true parents. You know why? Because anybody who knows anything about true parents knows that you can't lay a finger on them. They're totally innocent, guiltless. How many times do we hear that? Right? But that's not true love. You've been tricked. Anyone who leaves our movement and thinks, oh, I love true parents. It wasn't true parents. I still believe in true parents, but I just can't hack it. I just can't put up with this. Is very short-sighted. It's like, it's like suicide. It really is. It's like suicide. As long as they physically remain alive, there's always a hope that they can come back, but they're foolish. It's like putting a spiritual gun to your head to say, I'm going to leave. I mean, it gets tough in an MFT van, or even in a large family, the one that lives over at East Garden. It's not always simple. Life is very complicated. And there are struggles that everyone goes through. Your children go through struggles, and you go through struggles. But to be able to say that you're going to quit is really a dangerous temptation. You should never get fooled into thinking that. It's kind of similar also to the old excuse when father and mother's trying to give you some responsibility, or even way back when they're trying to give you the blessing, and you don't receive it by saying, I'm not worthy. That's such a terrible excuse. I'm not worthy. You're saying with your mouth, I'm not worthy, but you're really saying, I don't want it. And you're arrogantly rejecting something that Father and Mother is trying to give you. So there are these classic pitfalls that Satan has set up for many of us who are and successfully captured many of our fellow brothers and sisters. But those of us who really think it through should never be fooled by that. Statements like, I'm not worthy to receive. If you're not worthy to receive, shut up and receive and be grateful. That's the attitude. If you're really not worthy, and you really felt that way, you would be like, you'd be trembling at the blessing, because blessing always comes with responsibility, and but you receive it, because that's the humble thing to do, actually. The humble, if somebody gives you a present, oh no, thank you. There's always that, it's always like when I'm and I'm at dinner at a restaurant with an outside person, there's some business meeting or something, and the check comes, right? It's like, let me get it. Oh no, let me get it. Oh no, let me get it. It's such a stupid little game, because the other person, they don't want to pay for it. They really don't. But, and so it's kind of like game, So like you're playing this game. Well, I don't want your blessing. I'm not worthy. That's kind of like that restaurant game. It's just words. It's not really real. Because if it's really real, like in the restaurant game, if it's really real, like when I take the check, I'll take the check and I'll just say, no argument, I'm paying for it. And the other person, it's really so shallow. The other person puts his hand, kind of doesn't even touch the check. He just says, oh, let me. And he just kind of slowly moves so that you can say, oh no, I'll take care of it. I mean, it's really amazing. No matter how slow I move, my hand always gets there first. Right? So, it's a common little gesture, but I'm always happy to pay for even outside people, because that's an offering to them, and it's sincere. I really mean it. That's where it comes from. When a brother and sister sits down, like I was going out to lunch with one of my professor friends. Professors are poor financially. They're very poor people. In this country, in America, you don't value teachers and professors, and so their salaries are so low, and there's this whole psychological thinking when it comes to professors. Professors, in a faculty meeting, I was in a faculty meeting last Friday. We spent about an hour and a half arguing about a $25 travel budget, and it just amazes me what the kind of pettiness that can go on. But finances is tight for them, and it's very difficult, especially when you live on a tight budget and you only live for money and materialism. It's very hard to rise above it, and so it's all politics in faculties. But I went out with one of my a friend I'm trying to befriend, and we went out to lunch. And faculty, professors or teachers are very humble, financially humble people. So this is generally accepted thing that we pay. But we're not just going out because we teach at the same place. I'm trying to develop a friendship and a relationship. So when it came time to pay, he insisted on saying, no, we'll pay for each other's. And I said, what is that? What is paying for each other? I mean, you might as well have sat over there, and I could sit over there, and we can pay for our own lunch. But because we were at lunch together, I said, listen, Bob, we're going to be friends for a while, and I'm sure we'll be eating together a lot. So we'll just take turns. Right? I'm going to pay for it today, and you can pay for it next time. But we pay for all of it. because that's a better feeling, right? Because we're treating each other as opposed to just kind of individually having lunch together, but separately, it's not right. So you have those kind of experiences, but the highest level spiritual experience is that is kind of a similar situation, So a central figure or two parents, directly or indirectly, trying to give you some great blessing. Sometimes it has, the wrapping paper says responsibility or mission or lots of hard work, but it really is a blessing to be able to do this. And when it comes to you, you need to receive it gratefully, because that is really the sincere attitude. And the argument that, I love two parents, but my central figure is terrible, or I love, or I'm not worthy to do this mission, is a silly argument. I know all of you know that, right? So you wouldn't be here if you didn't know that. But it's just a shame. And of course, many of you here are first-generation veterans, and you are now, together with True Children's help, True Children are transforming you into second-generation people, right? I mean, that's the most exciting thing of all. I mean, I'm sure many first-generation brothers and sisters, and your children too, looked at your life and saw it as a big dead end, right? Partly because the lack of vision, of course. Totally because of the lack of vision. But where does it come from? Partly because of the way you yourself viewed your mission, and partly from the way you reacted or lived your life, not as a knight in shining armor working for our true parents, but as a common slave working day in and day out for some unglorious position somewhere tucked around in some department number 452 or something. But it's the way you've taken your mission. And so one of the big dangers that we have presently is first generation people feeling like they're coming to a dead end, like there's nothing there, and then your children rejecting you and your way. Even I know blessed children who literally say, I refuse to live a life like my physical parents, and I'm going to go out and go to school and get a job and make money. Because they don't see, they think that that's it. There's no vision there, and that's very dangerous. But coming to the rescue are true children, because true children are not going to abandon you. They're not going to abandon you. And this is the time of second generation, and I can remind you that Father earlier this year, was announcing who qualifies for second generation spirit. And essentially, remember we talked about like the hippies who were born in the 60s. They were born when true parents were alive, right? So when Heavenly Father conceived that child, that person, that man, that woman, Heavenly Father conceived them for true parents. Conceived you for true parents. If you were born after 1960, true parents were on the earth. If you were born after 1945, when True Father emerged, you have some conditional claim to second generation. So Father, again, has given you a covenant, has given you a promise, saying first generation people, this is not the end of the line. This is just the beginning. And it's going to be a whole new age for all of us, not just for the blessed children, and not just for younger cart members, but for all of us. And many of you can even qualify literally under that condition as second generation. And what that really means is you're going to qualify to work directly and closely with true children. And true children are going to come here and come to your businesses and come to your departments and come to your regions, and they're going to give you direct training on a whole new level of second generation spirit. And the second generation spirit spends no time on who's daddy and who's mommy, who's appa and who's umma, right? Because Hyojinim knows already, Yejinim knows already who their father and mother is. I mean, it's so obvious, it's so a part of them that it's never a question. And if we call you brothers and sisters, that means brothers and sisters. That means you too never have a question as to who father and mother are vis-a-vis you, yourself, in your own life. And that's the transition that you have to make. First generation people, so long as you struggle with whether you're going to stay in the movement or what relationship you really have with father and mother, then you're first generation, because that's the battle, and you haven't quite won it. But second generation is a whole new level, and the whole new level is the heart of attendance, is to take a son and a daughter and to learn how to actually live a life of attendance for two parents. That's the key. And the heart of attendance is excruciating. For first generation, I know that you went through some excruciating years and MFT and witnessing. In second generation, the same thing's going to happen under the direct guidance of two children, because they're going to put you through hell. Ask any staff member, direct staff member of the True Family, ask anybody at Manhattan Center Studios, or at Kukjinim Salo, or Unjanim's Deer Park. It's not easy, because when two children see the situation, they don't see a situation where, okay, now let's work together, and now you're gonna, we're working together, or you're working in my company, or you're working in my department, working together. They literally feel like they are in a position to teach you how to work all over again, how to attend true parents. And it's so clear and it's so obvious, because you've come to love and accept true parents, but you haven't really had all that much opportunity to live directly with true parents as true children have. And it's not the amount of physical time, but it's the essence, it's the amount of the seconds and minutes and hours and months and years spent thinking of father and mother as your father and mother, physical father and mother, and spiritual father and mother. And because it's just so natural in true children, they are a generation ahead. And when they come in contact with members, with first generation, it's very severe training, very severe training. Recently, when as even Injanim and my staff, when it grows, it's not very large, but it's growing slowly. But each person that wants to come and work for us, we always tell them, one, how hard it's going to be, and two, we make it very clear to them that the flow of the benefit doesn't go from you to true children. It goes from the true children to you. And that's why, if you really think about it, the lucky people who get to work very closely with true children directly are in a very special position, because they're going to, it's like, working very closely to two parents. It really is. And how many, there was a certain time and a certain place and a certain group of leaders got to work very closely around true parents, all for these last couple decades. But many of you are younger and you came much later, and there are many members, but at the same time there are 12 true children families or couples, and each of them I'm sure will build a core of people around them. And as my own experience with Injanim and me, our own experience is a small group of people around us, just to help us to do some of the tasks of some of the things that we do, like editing Mother's speech or organizing different things, but we make it very clear right from the beginning. This is not a job, this is not an employment, this is a family, and we are in an elder brother and elder sister's position. And the most important thing about this relationship is not what you can do for true family. That's trivial, but you'll want to do your very best. The most important thing that's going on is you now have a shot at true family, working with true family, and they're going to teach you. They're going to correct you. They're going to say, that's not the right attitude. That's not the right way. I told you about that one example of in East Garden, true children, when they're around true parents, and even when they're not around physically with true parents, but they're doing something for true parents, you have to know that there are no excuses. They don't give themselves excuses. And they just don't make mistakes. It just matters to them so much, so intensely, that they'll triple check it. I mean, nobody has to tell them, make sure you proofread that before you give it to father and mother, or it's like, on one hand, when I'm dealing with a staff member of mine and he's driving me somewhere, and it's like very difficult for me to point out things to him, because I don't want him to misunderstand me, and I'm just trying to get him to serve me better. That's always the paradox, right? I don't want to say anything in that situation, but with the proper heart and attitude, I in certain situations, clearly when there needs to be some correction, I want to say something, but it's very difficult because it looks like it's self-serving. So it's like, most of the time I try, especially when one of my staff members around East Garden, I try to watch them and how they interact with other true children. And then I can say something if their heart is not properly in line. But one example is every once in a while, mother will give me a call and say, I need to go somewhere and I want you to drive because I want Injin and you to go, and there's no room for, let's say, a security brother, so you're going to be my driver, security brother, and all this stuff, and so I want you to drive. And it's like every red alert in my body just goes off all at once, and I run down to the garage and I make sure the car is clean, and I move the seat forward, and I bring the car around. I make sure there's a token. I make sure, and I say to myself, mother doesn't tell me where she's going. But after 10 years, and I can guess, maybe that way, maybe this way, maybe the George Washington Bridge. I run down to the base and I said, I don't have a token for the George Washington Bridge on the return. Can I? But they have spare tokens, so I get one. Like, that's how I have come to be. Every detail, down to the speck on the trunk of the car, down to opening the door, down into when mother gets in the back seat of her car, I make sure that front seat is all the ways forward. And I'm driving like this. Right? And that just kind of, after watching True Children, I'm privileged. I'm in a privileged position because it comes natural. It comes natural because I watch them. They're not slacking off. They're not slacking off at all. They're heightened spiritual and physical 10 senses are just focused on father and mother so intensely, they don't forget anything. There's a little stick of chewing gum in the back seat in case mother wants chewing gum. Mother's favorite tapes are right there next to them. The radio is exactly the right volume. Everything is clicking in their mind. And then I get one of you brothers and sisters driving Chojanim or Injanim somewhere, and they're like in the front seat, way back, and Injanim says, oh, excuse me, could you move the seat up a little? It's blind. And I watch that and I say, what's going on here? So what I realized is most of us, we don't see what they see. And we don't feel what they feel. The heart of attendance. That's one small example. Another small example I shared with you once. Right? Injin and I, last year, just kind of editing mother's speech, whenever mother went to a different country, she needed a new copy that said England or Paris, right? Minor changes, and trying to think out every little detail. Like when you're in England, do you say Great Britain or do you say England? What's the difference? And we quickly look that up and make sure we get it right because she went to Scotland as well as England. Is Scotland part of England? No. Is it part of Great Britain? Yes. And you kind of have to figure these little details out. And so all last year, Injin was working with her computer and her printer and printed out the copy exactly the size mother likes the words and put it on the thickness of the paper, and we bound it just right for her, and we came up with some ideas so when she turned the page it would be printed back to back, which is kind of hard to do. You try printing out a 50-page document back to back, right? It's not that simple, and you have to watch every little detail. So we went all through last year to do that. And this year, we took some help. We got some help to help us do this, and very good member and working very hard. But clearly, she's not helping us, or he's not helping us. We're in a position where they're getting the benefit. They're getting the benefit, and lessons are hard learned because, and actually we learn a lot too, because. One example was when one minor change had to be changed in the text, and then we printed the whole speech over again. And this is like the 120th time. I mean, mother has spoken so many times. It should be routine. But as I said, something routine like driving mother somewhere, for me, is not routine if it involves mother and father. It's everything, every detail, every bump in the road, and you try thinking about driving for true parents. You have to, 1, make sure it's a safe journey. And then 2, get there faster than anybody. Now try to do those, and then the 3, get there smoothly. Okay, those 3, I tell staff members, I said, I tell my own brothers and sisters who are helping me, I said, I'm telling you how to drive because, not for me, but if you're ever in a position to drive one of my other 2 brothers and sisters, or true parents one day, I hope that that you, if I don't say anything these months and I just sit there, then it's not good for you. And so I pound them. I really get on their case, especially over and over and over again when they forget. I said, okay, we got to go safely. You got to think about locking the door. As soon as that car moves, that door is locked. And when we pull out of East Garden driveway, how many of you would have thought of watching for machine guns and other cars? Because in terrorist activities, the easiest target is when the car passes in the same spot frequently. So if mother and father is going unusually to Washington, D.C. or something, it's very difficult for terrorists to plan something. It's got to be, because professional terrorists, they watch it over and over and over again because they need to know exactly something. One of the most dangerous things is father's brevity of speech. You read any book on terrorism, and they'll say, never do anything routine if you're a target. Because at 6 a.m. in a certain car, coming from one journey to another, you are open. So every time father comes here on Sunday morning, father's risking his life. And father knows, and other leaders have told him, father, long time ago, father just doesn't even waste time listening to that stuff. But once I was there when father leader was saying, especially when things were very sensitive, like at certain periods in the 70s or 80s, and they were just talking about it and saying, talking about this point, that's why. Routine things makes that person very open. And so when you're driving, and then because mother started frequently asking me to drive, then I read this book, because there are certain things. All the security brothers, they had special training and they know how to spin a car around and go in the opposite direction really quickly and things like that. But they know what to watch for. And the classic situation is you're just in normal traffic somewhere, and all of a sudden, you see it in the movies, the car in front of you stops or turns and blocks both lanes. And then the car behind you comes really close because you're trapped. That's classic. And then there's nothing you can do. And so security is trained so that they're not driving carelessly and just driving really close to the car in front of them. They have to always think that if that's a bad guy, then there has to be enough space so something can happen. And the door is locked and the windows are up, and so many things to think about. But I know when I watch True Children, when it comes to father and mother's safety, father and mother's comfort, father and mother's well-being, they already have thought of it. They think about these things all the time. And they're constantly pointing out to brothers and sisters at East Garden, be sure to do this and watch out for this, and did you check the elevator, and always very much in alert. So those of you who sense and can learn from True Children who come stand here, you can realize that their senses are always heightened and completely very sensitive to serving true parents, and they're constantly thinking about it. And someday, when many of you more and more will have opportunities to work with True Children, you will learn so much from them about the heart of attendance, and really how it possesses and takes over every cell in your body, and really you can channel from spirit world and from Heavenly Father, but if you're properly tuned in. And so things will go right. I always tell my staff members that because of spirit world, we can say one thing: there are no excuses. There are no excuses. Things can be going really badly. Let's say some leaders doing an event, like a speech, or some of you working on an event, and the PA system's not working, and then the hotel was late in letting you in. Everything can be going wrong, and yet at the crucial moment, victory is taken. Why? Because of your spiritual clarity, your spiritual vertical connection. The spirit world can move. Of course, everything is a battle, and there are forces out there, physical world and spiritual world, who are trying to block us. But because we are in a position to do something for father and mother, if we're spiritually connected, no matter how bad it's going, it works out okay. But what about the other side? The other side is, sometimes you're doing something and it's no big deal and everything just kind of falls right into place. But then when father and mother come and visit your company or something, it's just total disaster. Right? That's because you're spiritually off. You're spiritually off. So even if everything's going right, it goes wrong. That's always a clue. That's always a sign. Always a sign. Yesterday, Kwan Jinim called me and said, I got a speeding ticket, Mei-hung. And I said, mm-hmm. And he said, do you think that was spiritual? And I said, of course it was. Everything is spiritual. That's what I was telling him yesterday. Everything is spiritual. And he said, yeah, I guess so. Is it good indemnity or bad indemnity? because we talked about indemnity once, and I told him that sometimes Heavenly Father is the one who's hitting you because he's going to give you something special. He's pushing you. And sometimes Satan's hitting you. That's because you deserve it. And, see, sometimes people think that indemnity comes from Heavenly Father. Like if you do something wrong, Father's going to punish you. But it's actually not like that. Heavenly Father is so loving that if He had it His way, our lives would always be protected, always be loved. That's an important concept because sometimes, especially like teenagers and children, they don't understand that. So, if I do something good, I get praised. If I do something bad, I get punished. And in the physical world, as parents, we have to kind of do situations like that. But when I thought about that, I said to myself, Heavenly Father, He probably would never punish us. That's not His heart. That's not His desire. He probably has more patience, like Father and Mother, as much patience as the whole universe can fill up. And He would wait for us. The problem is Satan is there. So Heavenly Father is not hitting you because He's punishing you. When indemnity comes because you made a bad condition, it's from Satan. And Heavenly Father and good spirit was always trying to protect you because you are the children of two parents, doing two parents' mission. So Heavenly Father and Spirit was always trying to protect you, but you made some bad condition, and so Satan's attack was able to hit you. Does that make sense? I don't think Heavenly Father says, I got to get my spanking stick out and spank that brother or sister. I don't think that's not Father and Mother's heart. And that's not, how many times does Father and Mother forgive us over and over and over again? So, understanding the ups and downs in our lives, everything is spiritual. When things happen well, things happen good, it's because we're building up a little spiritual momentum, we're right on target, and we're going in the right direction. And whenever anything goes bad, take responsibility. That's the key. Take responsibility and fix it. Quanjinin was a little bit tempted by saying, well, I said, yes, it's spiritual. And they said, well, I can't think of anything. And I said, well, think harder. Because I said, it's not so much whether you did something wrong or not, but it's an attitude. It's an attitude. So I said, Quanjinin, doesn't matter, just take the attitude. Okay. Say, Heavenly Father, okay, thank you. Maybe the message is very simple. Drive more slowly. Okay, drive more carefully. He's young and he's got his license, and he's a big help to us now in Boston because he's doing a lot of driving for Sunjin and Youngjin, for his younger brothers and sisters. So he's going to college and he's getting fantastic grades, and people have rave reviews about him. He met the provost of the university. The provost is like university has like a president. But the president of the university does like a lot of fundraising and external administrative things. But the highest position in the university, like professors and then department chair and then a school dean, then above that unites all the different schools, deans, above them is a level, an academic position called the provost. So it's the highest academic position and very, very important position. And Quanjinin bumped into her on his first day at the university. Because his car hit her car. And he said, oh, Mayhung. I said, how was your day? He said, not good. And I said, well, what happened? He says, well, I just got in a little fender bender. It was a small fender bender. I said, nobody was hurt. I said, no, damage, no, not so much. I said, okay, well, what's the big deal? He says, well, I hit the provost of the university. And I said, well, how'd that go? And he said, well, we talked about it a little bit, and I was trying to be polite, and she really liked me a lot, and she invited me to come visit her, so we were talking about that, and I said, well, whose fault was it? And were you driving? No, I was just in the lane, and I was going to turn lanes, and she's actually came out and apologized because it was a rainy road, and she bumped into him, but my advice to him always is whenever things happen, especially vehicles. And young people, teenagers and cars, my goodness, it's, that's where Satan controls these roads, and you have to be very, very careful. And every little incident is like spirit will warning you that things have to be screwed down a little tightly and spiritually. So he was doing a lot of thinking about that, and I said, well, if search yourself, and fix anything that you felt might have been off. You were mad at your younger sister, or you were thinking about something silly, And then once you've checked that out, then hope for the better. Hope that maybe, you can use it as a good condition. But now, 2.5 months into the university, the provost is one of his best friends. It's a she, he's a she. The provost is a she, and she really is fond of Kwon. And Kwon and I were driving in the car the other day, and I said, have you stopped by to see your provost friend? And she said, not recently. And I said, well, you could buy her a nice little card and say, as one of the very first people that I met at university, I'm really glad that I know you and I can come to you for advice, and I hope to bump into you again soon. And so he's kind of developing that relationship, and so he can see how something not so great, if you deal with it with the proper attitude, always comes out well. So one of the classic examples in the Bible of the heart of attendance and the proper attitude to have is Jacob, right? In the Jacob and Esau story, an amazing story. And when you hear Father speak of Jacob, you know the Father really loves Jacob, and really loves Jacob's example as one of the first person in the Bible to go all the way and complete the formula for unity. An amazing story. And the thing about Jacob is he had the right attitude, because a lot of people think, well, I can do better, or I could be a really motivated member, but only if such and this, always complaining, right? We always hear Father saying that one of the things he hates more than anything is complaining, because complaining kills your motivation, it kills your situation, it kills any possibility of success. And you can't gauge success depending upon the circumstances that are presented, because if anybody has had bad circumstances, that's been father and mother, and yet they don't complain. They always bring out victory. And the key to that is your attitude. When Jacob dealt with every situation, he always dealt with a positive attitude. And in his life, his brother wanted to kill him, and he was running away from his father, who was, after he received a blessing from his father wasn't very happy about that. And then he had to go work for Uncle Laban for 21 years. That's a long time. That's kind of like 21 years of MFT or fundraising or working at, your company. And yet 21 years, and yet that was just the beginning of his whole life. And during those 21 years, he had the right attitude. And the attitude was always take a bad situation and make it better. Always take a bad situation and make it better. And you can thrive. Many of you, if you can really possess Jacob's attitude, no matter how trapped you feel in your mission and you can't express yourself and you can't really grow a lot, it's because of your attitude. If you can nail down your responsibility and show your central figure that you're doing all that responsibility, but on the side you're learning about computers or you're learning about marketing techniques or this and that, and and your energy level is high and your attitude is strong, who's not going to notice you? I mean, in any movement, any corporation, or in a movement like ours, talented and motivated young brothers and sisters is what is every central figure's dream. And you can get what you want with the right attitude. With the wrong attitude, you still get what you want. That's my belief. But it never turns out, it never really is what you thought it would be. So either way, you get what you want. In this world, there is so much room to express if you know how to express yourself properly. So if you have the wrong attitude, I know true children, they can say, oh, I have so much school, and and father and mother doesn't do this or do that, but they don't wait. They take care of their school and they get really good grades, and on top of that, they start a business, or they start taking responsibility in this area. Hyojin's Manhattan Center Studios is an example. From nothing, he created that. And that was not even a situation where Father said, do it. He said, I want to do this. And he starts small and he just build it and build it and build it because he wants to do this to show it to Father and Mother. But he had the right attitude. The wrong attitude is, I want to do this and I can't do that. But he did it all. He was coming here to Belvedere for so many Sundays. And I know that all the true children, they have that attitude. It's an amazing attitude. With the right attitude, you can always make every situation work. And time is never wasted. With the wrong attitude, time is a waste. It's a waste, and you're just walking on a treadmill. With the right attitude, no matter how low or bottom or terrible your situation is, with the right attitude, you always go up. Because with the right attitude, other people will raise you up. So with Jacob's heart, he had an older brother that wanted to kill him, and he was working for this terrible uncle who was constantly working him, taking from it, never giving him anything. And then, he worked for 7 years and made his uncle's flock flourish. That right there is the right attitude, prosperity. If you're not prospering, don't blame it on anybody else. Blame it on your attitude. Every one of you here by now should have, and together with True Children teaching you by example, should, in the next year or 2 or 3, stop taking any money from the movement. All of you, any of you. The very first person that father and mother constantly tells that to is their own children. Constantly. You live at East Garden, and there are expenses here. Of course, you're my children, you're young, and, I'm going to take care of your education. So, we'll pay you for your tuition bills, but father constantly says, as soon as your education finishes, college level, or if you go on to graduate level, go on to PhD level, because all of that education is in preparation to serve the movement. So father can clearly justify using, resources, small amount of resources, not that much. We're talking about an organization that's $10 billion large, our movement, right? And we're talking about this much is used over at East Garden. Father's very strict about what comes in to be used in that area. And father's, many times at the table, father says, well, we will take care of your education, but that's it. We have to start here. We have to start here in this family. The ideal servant of this movement, servants of the movement and leaders of the movement are those who commit a full-time effort to their movement, but at the same time have had the motivation, the ingenuity, and prosperity to take care of all their personal financial needs. That's a challenge, but that's the ideal. So it's not just a challenge, it's something we have to do. So all brothers and sisters who have worked hard for the movement, but at the same time the movement takes care of you, that's like children, like even us. But as soon as you can, you take care of your central figure's responsibility, the responsibilities your central figure is giving you, but you talk to other brothers and sisters, and you put together this idea or that idea, and it's not it's not always a money issue either. You know how to make money anyways. You can fundraise on weekends. I know money is tight, and I don't want to be condescending because many of you are just surviving by the thread, right? To pay for your doctor's bills and to pay for, your rent or whatever. I know many stories. All of you are just but don't blame it on the movement, right? It's a sacrifice that you've made. That's for sure. It's a sacrifice, and you make it willingly. As soon as you put a complaint on that, you've ruined it. So don't complain about it. You look at the situation that you're in. Talk to other brothers and sisters. I'm talking many times. Many brothers and sisters call me up. Any of you can call me up and say, I was thinking about opening a pizza store. Okay, fine, pizza restaurant. Why? I love pizza. I know pizza. Or I know sushi. I say, great. Send me a memo. But let's talk about it. Where are you going to get the money? How much money do you need? What location? I'll walk you through some of the basic ideas. But I'm not the only person. Many of our leaders have had good business experience and finance experience. The ideal is each couple, each family needs to commit a full-time effort to the movement and at the same time a full-time effort to their own personal finances so that there is no negative draw on the church. There is nothing. And you can stand completely independent and say that my life is an absolute contribution to the movement. That's the position that father and mother is pushing True Family strongly in that direction. So, with my teaching job, I'm getting a salary now, and father always likes to hear about what the salary is. And I said, Father, it's not that much. But he's very, gratified, and he says, that's good, because he knows also that I'm always there for all the church events and doing many other things in the movement, but at the same time, trying to, my degree or my doctorate is almost done. It's not done yet, but it takes a long time to get a PhD. But I didn't wait until the end. I wanted to try to start. I had little ideas, and it's not like I said, oh, Father, Mother, if you give me $50,000, I have this great idea. Nothing. I just created something. It was small, very small, and tried to grow it, and kept it very quiet because if it didn't work, just start over again. And build something on my own, and to be able to be in a position so that I'm in a position now where I don't have to receive anything from the movement. And that's the position that we all should be in. That's where we need to work towards. And we need to work together to try to do that. Sometimes it takes some kind of cooperative effort. Did you understand that point? That's a very important point, because that is a way where you can feel trapped into thinking that you did something for the church, so now the church has to do something for you. That is really a terrible attitude. The church has already given you life. True parents have given you life, and you should... it's just not words. You should be really grateful. And I just, I asked one sister I was talking to for one afternoon, and I said, well, have you ever thought about leaving the church? And she said, yes, many times. And I said, so why didn't you leave? And she said, because there's nothing to go to. No matter how much I struggle, how terrible it is in the movement, I know what's out there. And comparing them is very simple. And I would never go back there. But I know that that question came up because in the setting of blessed children, and sometimes even true children, it's a very different issue from first generation. And sometimes the issue is because first generation, you have something, to tell you the truth, that deep inside all the blessed children, and even sometimes true children, they feel like that they wish that they could have. That's something that you have. A conversion experience. From what we can know and what we can experience and see in your lives, a conversion experience is a life-changing, powerful experience that transformed you from the dark side to the good side. And that's something that blessed children and true children, the church, in a sense, takes it for granted. So I know that sometimes when they grow up, especially as teenagers, and they see the freedoms of their outside school friends who are making all the choices. Should I sleep with my boyfriend or not? Should I go and take this job or not? Should I do what my father wants, or should I do what I want? And they're dealing with all these choices. And sometimes, blessed children, even sometimes true children, they feel like, well, it's all taken for granted. It's assumed that I'm going to stay in this movement. But I always tell anybody who thinks that way, well, go. Even Hyojinim's attitude when he's here, go. If you want to go, go. If you want to go, go. In other words, liberate your mind. Don't stay in the church saying, oh, I have to stay and everyone's expecting me to stay. You can physically go, but that'd be kind of unintelligent or kind of spiritually stupid. But when Hyojinim says, if you want to go, go. If you want to get out, get out. What he's saying is he's kind of liberating you. Because mentally or with your mind, you can say, okay, if I want to go, I can go. Even Hyojinim said I can go. Right? Hyojinim said, get out if you want to get out. I say that, in our particular staff member, I always say to them also when training them, the moment you want to go, you go. But because I'm not employing you, you're my brother. So good or bad, up or down, we're in it together. Every time Engineer and we sit down to take a staff member, it's a decision for life. And I tell them, it's your decision. If you ever want to go, you want to do other things, just let me know. You can go. You're not bound to stay here. But as far as, no matter how much pressure or how much scolding or how much training, difficult training that you're getting from me, never feel, oh, Jinunim's going to get rid of me. That's not going to happen. Because you're not an employee, you're a brother. And we're in it together. I'm asking you to be part of the team, this particular team, like Injinim's team, staff member. And I know Hyojinim is the same way. Anybody who wants to leave can go. So it's kind of like a liberation. You should never feel trapped. And blessed children should never feel trapped that they have to stay. You don't have to stay. Even teenagers, blessed children, you don't have to stay. Let me just wrap things up a little bit by telling you a little story. Once I was sitting down a couple days ago with Sanjinim. She was up in Boston, we were sitting together, and she's a high school senior. And the peer pressure that she has in her schools, right, with all her friends, they all constantly talk about who they've slept with. All her friends that are girls, right? They happen to all be good students, but they're all good students because their attitude is, I'm going to get my straight A's and get the hell out of here. That's their attitude. Right? So they're actually smart, so I can't knock them for that. And she talks with them, and she comes back and she feels like, well, she asked me, Hyungbu, do I have a choice? And I said, yeah, frankly, you have a choice. You're father's daughter, but you do have a choice. Even true children have a choice. She said, well, I don't sometimes feel like I have a choice. I said, no, don't worry. You have a choice. The older you get, the more you realize, and true children are very gutsy people, right? More gutsy than any hippie who went on the road to do their own thing. If they wanted to go, they'll go. So I said, Sanjanim, you have a choice. And I said, well, when I'm at school, my school friends, some of the talk that they do, and they make me feel bad, and I was kind of sensing something there. So I said, Sanjanim, when you think about Appa and Amma, father and mother, sometimes do you have trouble? And do you resent them? And she says, frankly, sometimes I do. Because they're never here. Never here. And one of my school friends who's a good student and with the attitude that I told you about, right? She constantly complains about her parents never being there for her. Right? Typical outside parents. The father and mothers are both professional. Right? They care a lot. They have the Mercedes-Benz and a nice house, and the parents can have the attitude, we take care of everything for you, right? But they're never there emotionally. And she said to me, sometimes I feel like that person. When she talks to me about how much she resents her parents, sometimes, it's difficult. So, we were having a very, very important talk about this. And this is important as parents to our children, and this is important for blessed children, teenagers. You do have a choice, and you need to make that choice. You need to weigh it. I still remember in college when I went like this. Okay, I did pretty well in college. Most Koreans are pretty ugly. I'm in that category, but I could probably find some girlfriend out there because all they're interested in is all Koreans are ugly, anyways. So they're interested in someone who got good grades and get a good job, and I was president of the Korean club, and I tried to do some good things on the campus, but I had a pretty high profile when I was a senior. So you go like this and you go like this. And there's no comparison for me. But there was a time in my life where I sat there and I said, okay, there's this, I can get married, I can have kids, I can get a job, I can do all those things that all those people do. And yet, this decision, I should say left hand, this decision means I have to deny everything that I feel about your parents. How can I balance those two together? How can you live a life, going somewhere, living your own little life, right? So I looked at this life. I said, well, this, I assumed at that time that when I got blessed, it would be to one of the blessed children, other blessed children, and we would spend a life serving the movement, and so I weighed all these things, and I said to myself, this, the outside world wasn't that appealing at all, and mostly because it wasn't me, it wasn't who I was. Doesn't matter if I can find some individual who marries me and feels like they're okay, now we're husband and wife, and that's meaningless because that person can't possibly love me if that person doesn't accept true parents, because then that person would know the first thing about how I feel about things. So there was a time when I weighed, and it was very clear for me. And so when that one sister said to me, well, yeah, I thought about leaving, but when I thought about it, there's nothing to go to. There's no other religion to go to. Even though our church has many problems, we're working them out. But the other religions have worse problems, and they're lost. They don't know what to do about them. So I was talking with Sanjanim, and we talked about. I gave her a little story, and I wanted to share it with some of you, especially some of the teenagers. I said to her, "Well, suppose there's this community." And there were two types of families. One type of family had parents with their son or with their daughter, with their children, right? Who really loved their children, really spent a lot of time with them, went to the Little League, went to the soccer game, went to the Parents Teachers Association. Every time true children at their school have some kind of parent come visit your children, or parents' night, or parents' meeting with the teacher, right? Right? You don't think father and mother in a better world would like to go to those things? How many times does true children's heart just every time when they go to school and they see all their friends' parents coming and nobody comes for them? Their father and mother doesn't come for them. That really hurts. So you have to understand the context of this story. Sanjinim, younger two children, still even now, they, when I look at Yeonjinim and Chungjinim, they don't smile that often. They feel a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure. Yeah, they're doing well. I like to come here and tell you how well they're doing in school and stuff like that. But you need to know why they're doing so well. They feel the pressure, and they want to do well. But I noticed also that they don't smile so much. She's in 6th grade, Chungjinim. And, I really wish that we could, as brothers and sisters, we do more. But even now, older, we're so busy. And she's such a solid student, always been a straight-A student. Sometimes the really good students or good children get neglected, right? Squeaky wheel gets the oil kind of thing. And anyways, their life is not tough. And when they grow up, sometimes they get confused. And sometimes I'm sure blessed children might be the same way. So I said to Sanjin, son, this is your situation. Suppose that you lived in this community, this little town. And in this town, there were 2 types of families. One type of family had children, and their parents loved them and loved them and loved them so much. Took care of them, went to schools with them. Children came to school with curly hair and nice dresses and a little ribbon that the mommy put on her. And she was just the happiest thing in school. Straight A student and just, really a jolly student. Sanjana goes, yeah, I know the type. And then I said, in the other type of family, right, have parents, very professional or very accomplished, but they're really into something else. They're into their career, they're into something, and they completely neglect their children. A lot of parents in America are like that, right? A lot of parents in America are like that. A lot of parents take their children and put them in daycare centers and just go off to work. And most of them are saying, I have to do this. I have to work at my $125,000 job. Wouldn't you guys love to say that? Most of your kids are like at some church daycare, right? And you're out there making your $125 a month job. And they're making $125,000 a year. And they say, I have to do this. And my husband has to do this. Right? Those kind of, anyways. There's so many things you can say about that. But you know that type. And Sanjana goes, yeah, I know that type too. That's kind of like my friend at school. She really resents her parents. And, this girl happens to be Asian. And she's told Sanjana, oh yeah, my parents expect me to get an arranged marriage. But she's also told Sanjana about this boy and that boy, and he was good in bed, and he was terrible in bed. It's amazing. I mean, she slept with everybody. So she slept with everybody. And, I said, are you sure it's just not talking? I said, no, it's for real. She came back this summer, and she was telling Sanjana and her friends, I had a lesbian experience this summer. I mean, why not try it all? So I tried this. It was pretty interesting. That's the kind of sickness that's going on. And her parents, who are Asian and kind of out of touch, I'm sure, have no idea what her lifestyle is at school, right? Drugs and sex and doing whatever she wants. And they just love her and they gave her a car, but that kind of parents, a whole lot of neglect. And then I said, Sanjay, and then there's you and your dad and mom. All right? Now in this town, in this community, okay, there's a problem. There's this threat. There's this disease. There's this like monster that's out there lurking the community. And it's growing and it's going to destroy the whole town sooner or later. Maybe, it's killing people, it's raping people, it's destroying communities, drugs. There's this beast out there. And everyone knows it. All the parents who love their children, they know it's out there. And all the parents who are working on the career, they know it's out there. They read about it in the newspaper all the time. Right? All this crap that we read in newspapers. And I said, and son, when you were born in your family, your appa and oma, your dad and mom took you as a little baby, kissed you on the cheek, and tearfully said to my daughter, there's this terrible threat out there. And because I really love you, I'm going to go out. Your mommy and daddy is going to go out and fight this monster. And we're going to do our very best to defeat this monster. And we're going to find this monster and fight and battle this monster. So you stay here, we have a little nanny, a little babysitter, and when you grow up, this babysitter will tell you what we're doing. So Sanjanim grows up, or this little child grows up. I said, Sanjan, you grew up, right? And, your babysitter's telling you, and you understand that there's this big battle out there. Right? But when you go to school, it's really hard. Because you have your friends with the ribbon and the happy friends, and then my parents love me. Oh, my parents baked the cake for the school, and my parents are here talking to the class about their job, and really into it type of parents. And I said, and those students look at you, and they think that you're just part of the ugly group, the selfish group. And then your friend, the other type of family, the parents who resent, the parents who neglect their children because they don't really love their children. It's funny because your life is like theirs. But it's not at all. Because your daddy and mommy is out there fighting every day. They're out there in a battle, and they're fighting this beast. And every day they're fighting. They're getting hurt, and they're trying their best. It's very, very hard. And every night when they come back in the battlefield and they lie down, they're missing you and longing you, and they wish that they could be with you. And every time they have an urge to come home and to be with you, they think about the monster. They think about that if they just come home and love their own family, the monster's going to come and destroy everything anyways. So that's not really love. So I said, Sanjin, your dad and mom, our dad and mom, they're out there fighting. And they're fighting and getting hurt and fighting with this beast. And at the same time, they're missing you, longing to be with you. And you're here and you have a choice. You do have a choice. Because you can go to school, blessed children, you can go to school, and you can act like, you don't know true parents or true parents are never around for me. But what's happening is the parents who really love their children, they know the beast is out there, but they don't have the guts or the vision to go fight. And the selfish parents are even worse than that. They know the beast is out there, but they don't care about anything except themselves. So they figure, well, the beast is out there, but it's not really like out my door, at my front door. So the parents who really love their children and really love them, take care of them, grow them up, and really smart, and they go to Harvard, and once they go to Harvard, right, they get raped. They get murdered. Or your lovely little daughter runs away with some criminal type, gets into drugs. In other words, the beast comes and will get them, but it's kind of random right now, all over the place. But it's getting worse and worse and worse. So I said, Sanjanim, you need to go to school with that kind of perspective, and you need to be proud. You need to tell your friends at school, my dad and mom, they're not here at school at the parent-student meeting, because they're out there fighting. And they're out there fighting it, and they're not fighting just for me, they're fighting for you. They're fighting for your family. So I know that your parents love you a lot, but your family is going to have hope because of my parents. And then you should say to your school friends who have parents that neglect their children, my parents are not like your parents. My parents are not out there just looking for money or job or position. My parents are out there fighting this incredible monster. And they're asking for other people's help. And I'm growing up, and as soon as I get a chance, I'm going to go out there and help fight them. And that's exactly the attitude that true children always come out to. When they grow up in their teenagers years, they hear things, they see things. They're not growing up in some kind of convent. They have all kinds of ideas. They have free will. And I said, Sanjanim, you're your father's daughter. Many people put a lot of burdens on you and expectations on you, and it feels like they're taking away your freedom. But I'll tell you right now, you have freedom. You can do whatever you want. And because you're father's daughter, father and mother in the heat of the battle will let you come close. And you can fight next to father and mother, or you can be part of the enemy, part of the bad side. If you're not with us, you're against us. And that goes for true family, that goes for blessed children, that goes for all our members. If you're not with the good side, you're part of the bad side. So Sanjana was very perceptive, and she said, yeah, she was really quiet for a while, and then she said, but so many people have died. So many people left our church. Is there hope? I said, absolutely there's hope. Yeah, that's the whole point. There's this monster out there killing people. And father and mother, and with a group of young people called Munis, they have the guts to go out there and fight. There's an enemy out there. There's an enemy out there. That's why father and mother's vision and father and mother's purity and pure of heart and true love concepts is not swept over the world. We're not some rock band trying to become popular or famous, right? Father and mother's trying to do something that's so incredible, nobody believes it. When you go to school and you tell your friends, my mommy and daddy is out there fighting that monster that we all heard about, they're going to say, no way. That's impossible. Nobody is that stupid. Nobody can beat them alone. But the only way to beat this monster is for some man and woman to stand up and have the guts to say, let's get this thing. Just like in the movies, right? Some focus point. And then all the good-hearted people with conscience like you and us and me, we will be called to that and we'll be there fighting. But the fighting is serious and many people are getting killed. So I said, Sanjanim, that's like coming to the battleground, seeing Apanoma fighting and seeing all the dead people on our side, all the good dead people. Members who left are like dead people on a battlefield. And I said, this is life and death. That's how you should see that. Don't lose hope. So she said, well, can we win? Can we really win? Do you really think? Because when she talks to her school friends, they say, they know who she is. I said, your parents are crazy. Your parents don't love you. They try to convince her of that. But of course, Sanjanim absolutely loves parents. But, sometimes Injanim and I are there so that she can talk about some of these things. She said, well, Hyungbu, do you think we can win? And I said, absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to win. There's no question about it. And the more I grow up and the more I learn about the outside world and what's actually out there, I know we can win. And Heavenly Father and Mother's asked me to get an education. The more I studied, I realized the more great Father and Mother is, I know we can win. And I said, this is how we're going to win. It's going to happen overnight. It's going to happen very quickly. I said, it's going to happen, and I asked her, she has this one band that she likes, this rock and roll band. I said, do you think that rock and roll band is very popular now? Right? And famous all around the country, maybe all around the world, many countries in the world. Very, a band that's made it. And I said, do you think that band came out of nowhere and just said, okay, let's strum the guitar and we're going to make millions of dollars and make it? That band has probably been suffering for about 10, 15 years. An average rock and roll band suffers for a long time. They finally get a song. They finally, they're making songs. They're making lots of songs. But what happens is they get a song and some DJ likes it and plays it a couple times on the radio. A couple people call in and say, I like that song. Or some big shot in some record company says, hey, I like that song. I'm going to put money behind that song. Or, another big shot in some other company knows the brother or the wife-in-law or the band member. It's always, in the outside world, it's always like this, all these connections. And they put a little money behind it, right? And many bands fail anyways, but the ones that make it, anything popular like a movie star or a band, look how high they go and how fast they can shoot up, right? We see it every day. I said, Sanjanim, you have seen the essence of success all around you every day. Heavenly Father has created this tremendous shrinkage of the whole world because of telecommunications and mass media. We are now just one little town. Something that happens in India or South Korea or anywhere in South America, we hear about it almost right away. So Heavenly Father shrank the whole world and has this elaborate communications process, and everyone is trying to get on top of this. And the good example is rock and roll bands. And if you look at the rock and roll band, they suffer for a long time. And what happens is they lay the foundation and something clicks, something small somewhere starts to roll, and all of a sudden they're on top of the world. Right? And then what happens? When they're on top of the world, the whole world looks at them, chews them up, finds out that the taste doesn't last, and spits them out like a used piece of gum. Right? Right? Madonna's going to come and go. Right? All these bands come and go. Right? Even the biggest bands like the Beatles will come and go. Rolling Stone, they come and go. Can't last forever. But not only in terms of lasting, but even the public, when they initially become very popular, they're almost treated like an idol, right? Young people look up to them and want to copy them and emulate them. But then young people always kind of lose the taste and they realize, it's not that great. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It's kind of stupid. I gotta start getting a job. It just wears off. There's no truth there. And I said, now for us, it's the same kind of battle, right? And Father and Mother's been working for a long time. But because it's the ultimate battle, it's the ultimate last battle, we have an opposition. Those rock and roll bands, they don't have an opposition. But we have an opposition. We have Satan, and we have many, many forces in the universe that are trying to block Father and Mother. And even so, we're pushing ahead, and everything's coming together. Everything is coming together. Father is building newspapers and multimedia companies. And you know what's going to happen. We know Father and Mother. Don't you think that Father and Mother is going to be popular? Don't you think father and mother, when people finally come to realize and taste this flavor, they're going to find out that the taste keeps getting better and better and better. It doesn't wear out. There's love here. There's truth here. Then, the whole media world now just gobbles people up, sends them all the way up to the level of God, but then just kicks them out and is cruel to them many times. That's the test, right? That's the test. And finally, when this huge whirlwind, and when it's father and mother and our turn, when we take a crack at it, finally, and things start to roll, and then we start shooting up that curve, and everyone, you're going to have Dan Rather on the CBS News or ABC News, whatever news, Peter Jennings. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a report that the Messiah is here in South Korea and has been with us for the last 40 years. Let's turn over to you, Michael. Yes, here in Washington, D.C., Reverend Moon has just come out from President Clinton's office and told him that his tax hike was a big mistake. And that's going to happen, right? That's going to happen. And the television and the multimedia, and everyone's going to say, let's try this. Let's try this hat on. Let's try this flavor. And when that happens, we're going to be so busy we won't even know what to do. We'll all be lecturers and workshops of thousands of people over and over and over. And the whole world is going to be converted overnight, in 1 decade. And we are at that base. Last time I was here, we talked about compounding and exponential growth. And always that kind of growth. It doesn't even mean that we have to do, if we want to grow 10,000% this decade compared to the last decade, it doesn't mean that we have to do 10,000 times more than we did last decade. Because we all know that we did almost all that we could, right? Father's been pushing us to do all that we can do. But it doesn't take more than that. Because compounding teaches us that once a critical mass is reached, the interest on the interest, the effort on top of the effort, the foundation will be such that that curve will start to go and will become explosive. It will explode. It will go, hyperbolic is what they call it. And the growth will be so fast, it will be a whole new day. And mass communications and mass media. And the secret to that success, we see it all the time. Just look at anything that's popular today. Any popular food, any popular rock band, any popular movie star. But none of them have staying power, right? Presidents' popularity come and go. But you wait, when the public, people like Peter Jennings and Dan Rather and all these people, once they take a bite, they're going to realize that they've been wrong all this time. And you know what? Up to now, the news media has been treating us like lepers. We're not going to deal with that incident. We're not going to deal with father going to North Korea. They're such hypocrites. But that's okay. That's because they have no vision and they have no guts. But even their own selfish careers and their selfish jobs is going to work to our advantage. Because once the dam breaks a little bit, and certain newspaper reporters have the guts to say, Reverend Moon is the Messiah. I've met him myself, and and there's certain proofs here. And then other theologian scholars says, well, I've been doing some research at the university or a theological seminary, and actually the Messiah was supposed to be born in 1920. These things will come clicking together, and guess what? All of the famous people that you see on TV, they're going to race to proclaim Father. They don't want to be the last ones. Look at them. They don't want to be the last. When Oprah Winfrey started doing, I was sexually abused, you were sexually abused, we're all sexually abused, everyone started talking about how they were sexually abused, right? It's very popular. It was like the in thing. A couple of years ago, I went into a drug rehab. Yeah, I went to a drug rehab. Yeah, it's like if you're a movie star and you haven't been to drug rehab, you're not in. You have to be famous, have problems, go to rehab, overcome it, and now you're like a saint. Right? So it's like these things. And then the news media picks up on that and they talk about, how was your drug rehab? It's like ridiculous. So it's going to happen. And you know what? It has to happen in 1990s. This is it. This is it. It's going to happen this decade. So now it's 1993, October. We're coming to the end of 1993, starting 1994. We had this year alone is an amazing year. We had father give speeches, then mother give speeches, and then Truth Children that will now, starting today, in just a few hours, Hyojinim will kick off the first one. This morning we were at Gyeongbae and we said, we talked about it as a kickoff. Hyojinim was going to go, and I said, have a good kickoff, and we're going to really start this thing. And I think Hyojinim shared with you his attitude, which is the attitude of all members of True Family. It's like, nobody likes work, but it's not a question of doing it or not. If Father wants this done, then we do it. And many of you are hard at work trying to bring people to it. I think the most significant thing of all, don't be fooled by the fact that father and mother is not speaking to crowds of millions, or I told Sanjanim, in some of your locations you'll walk in and there might only be 25 people there. But I said, don't worry, that's not the victory. The victory is you. The victory is the true children willing to do this. That's the first victory, the internal victory. Then the external victory comes. So I said, Sanjanim comes in, well, what difference is it going to make, and I said, well, it makes a difference because you are universally important as a true child. And when the family unites, that means for the first time in history, God has a man, God has a woman, and God has a family. And if you are totally united, God also has a movement, a worldwide movement, a tribe, a race, a nation. So, very, very powerful. And it's going to happen in October, starting today, and all the weekends in November and December. And I'm sure they'll be seeing you. True children will have to travel to California, as well as Chicago and Kentucky, and all along the East Coast. So there's a lot of traveling involved. But it's an exciting time. And I am absolutely convinced. And I said to... one of the things I said to Sanjana was, because of the Father gave me the privilege of getting the education that I have choices. I have some of the best choices that outside world can offer. I can go out and make $200,000 a year. That's no problem. But that would be ridiculous. That's like leaving the good skies and going out and joining Darth Vader. It's like it's very clear. It's very clear. And I said, Sanjana, absolutely, I'm totally confident. Share you this story. There's a little, giving you a little bit of the inside, but you have to know, and you'll see, because there's no doubt in my mind that Sanjanim will take her place as such a great and glorious daughter of true parents. Kwanjinim will do the same. Youngjinim and Hyungjinim will do the same. Yunjinim and Chungjinim will do the same. All of them. They will do what is right. But I tell you this story because I want to let you know it's not automatic. Right? It's not automatic. All of you here, you expect true children, right? To be models, and you want to look up to them so much that sometimes you don't realize how much pressure that puts on them. And in a way, it does almost feel like they're robbed of their freedom. You all had freedom, right? Many of you were on your Harley Davidson motorcycles, with doing whatever you wanted to do, and now you're doing the right thing. Now you're still doing what you want to do. You just figured out what you wanted to do. Right? And same for younger true children. It's not automatic. And in that, I think there's inspiration, isn't there? They're not robots. It's not just going to be automatic. They have lots of struggles. They have more obstacles. Satan hits them with more obstacles than Satan hits with you. He spends more time trying to give them a hard time. But they always take it. And one at a time, Yejinim and Hyorjinim and Injinim and Hungjinim, Unjinim, Hyunjinim, Kukjinim, just one at a time. They all went through their blessing. Just like you, they had a choice. They said, you all heard Injinim, I think, a couple weekends ago, saying that when she was getting blessed at Belvedere, and all the leaders were arm in arm, and she looked at the front door. She was walking down the hallway, and she was passing the front door, and she said, "There's the last chance. There's my chance." And even though the leaders just happened to be all standing there in line, all in these white robes, if I really wanted to, I could leave. But see, she likes this. It's liberating in a way to talk about that story, because she's admitting, she's not saying, "I was forced." None of you were forced. None of you were forced. If any of you feel like anything in our church forces you, you're denying yourself. You're less than a man or a woman. Nothing forces you. There's nothing in this world that forces you. You don't see any guns here, right? That's force. That's force. You don't see any armed guards forcing you to listen to me, right? So that once you realize that, then you realize everything that you do, you're doing it because you want to do it, and that makes you much more powerful. It makes your offering much more powerful. So that's the right attitude. That's the heart of attendance. I hope that in the future, every time that I have a chance to come here, I'm going to share with you as much as I can about true children. They are like the the secret weapon, really. And we in this group know a little bit about it. Let me tell you one last story. Kwon the other day, this summer, was driving down the Crawford Farms in Texas with Hyojinim, and they were going to, there was a workshop for blessed children, and they were down there, and Hyojinim also was doing some video shooting for a project that he was doing. He's always working. Even when he's playing, he's working. And so he was down there shooting a hunting video, and he took Hyojinim with him. So there was a long drive. They went all the way down there, and Injinim Hyojinim allowed Kwon to take some blessed children friends with him. And blessed children and true children, very, very difficult situation. Very difficult situation. That's a very volatile situation because they don't understand each other. Blessed children, we really don't understand true children. So probably a lot of judgment in true children's lives comes from blessed children. I'm like you, we're the same age, we're going to the same school, I'm getting better grades than you, right? Really, it's if I could spend more time at the Sunday school, I'd rather do that than here because there's a lot of training that can be done. Hyojin has done a lot of it. I wish I could also put my 2 cents in there as well. But there's a lot of, you have to understand the dynamics of true children and blessed children. And at the same time, when Kwon Jinim and Sunjim, their focus was to develop their own individual foundation and to really be a true champion for God, Injinim didn't let them spend time with blessed children. Not just because blessed children judges them, but also the good blessed children, want to respect them and serve them. And when true children are very young, so that's very comfortable, right? It's very wonderful when you're 13 years old and people are treating you like Mr. President, right? And so that wasn't, we said, Kwon Jinim, it's better to spend time by yourself and work on your own individual foundation because you have to be a solid individual before you can be a solid leader. And these sometimes blessed children will make you feel like a leader, but if you're not really a leader, then it's not healthy. So Injinim was even very watching the younger true children very carefully. She draws directly from her own experiences. It's like a crutch to have blessed children. You can kick a blessed child and they'll say, "Thank you, Injinim." And what really they should say is that Injinim, that wasn't very nice. There's no gift, there's no free give and take. But now Kwon Jinim is older and he's there's more give and take with blessed children his age, so that at the same time, because Injinim is thinking Kwon Jinim needs to now develop leadership and Sunjinim developing leadership with them, blessed children also need to develop the proper tradition and foundation upon which they should have give and take. And all the blessed children are all at very different levels. And some of them are sitting in Kwon Jinim's car, I don't have a truck this nice, and all kinds of weird ideas, and we can straighten those out. But some blessed children just really, really right on the money, right on the mark. They really sincerely love, true children or Kwon Jinim, and they really want to do anything. And I just wanted to share this one story. I said to myself, next time I go to Bellevue, I'm going to talk about this, because that was the right attitude. Because they were on the highway, and they drove, I think Hyojinim drove something like almost all day and all night and all day. I forget how many hours it was, 38, 40 hours. And Hyojinim, he drove straight from New York to Texas without non-stop. They stopped for bathrooms and gas, but no sleeping, straight. And Kwon Jinim, wanting to really be there, was driving most of the way. And most of his blessed children friends were like sleeping in the back, right? But when you're driving that late, you need a co-driver. You need someone to watch out in case you're dozing off or to help you keep a conversation. And there was one particular blessed children boy, a friend of his, and always, he never slept when Kwon Jinim was driving, and always offered Kwon Jinim, I can drive if you want me to. And he says, no, I'll drive. And so they listened to music together, they would talk, and actually very, very deep friendships were made with some of his blessed children friends. A very good feeling, good experience. But one example of being there at this moment's notice, we talked about security, we talked about terrorism, we talked about, taking care of different things when you're around father and mother. But blessed children in particular, this kind of symbolized, I was very proud of this blessed children boy, a friend of Kwon Jinim's. They were in a truck in Kwon Jinim's car, and this 18-wheeler, this big truck driver, with a big truck, they were kind of, like Hyojeon was going very fast, and he passed the truck, and Kwon Jin wanted to stay up with Hyojeon, so maybe he passed the truck in such a way where the truck, on the highway, sometimes things happen, and people will say, oh, what, they honk your horn. Mostly they just honk your horn and stuff like that, right? But so Kwon Jin was basically just trying to follow Hyojeon, and they were just going, but this truck driver was trying to compete with Kwon Jin all of a sudden. So it became one of these really nasty races. And Kwon Jin wasn't like even paying attention to him, but he was just trying to follow Hyojeon. But the truck driver was really upset. Really upset. And then finally, of course, the trucks can't go as fast as these cars, so they finally pulled away, and a mile or two, I don't know how far down the road, but the truck driver was following them. And then they went to a gas station and pulled off gas. And Kwon Jin, all the blessed children in the back were sleeping, except for this one. And Kwon Jin got out of the truck, right, and went over to the gas pump and was doing the pump, got the pump and was putting it, just standing there, right? And this brother was sitting in the front seat of the car, just looking out, and notices a truck over there, and all of a sudden it's that truck, and this big truck driver gets out of the car and takes up his crowbar, and he's going like this, and Kwon Jin's back was like this, and this guy was going to come up and just hit Kwon Jin. That is one of those moments. That is one of those moments. And if you're sleeping, like in the garden, or if you're going to miss it. Someone's going to get really hurt. But this particular blessed child jumped out of the car and courageously walked up to that truck driver. Intercepted him. So Kwon Jin was maybe right about there, and the truck is here, and this guy's coming close, so he quickly jumped out and approached him. Right? I guess it was dark, and then this blessed child said, I'm really sorry, he acted as if he was the driver. I'm sorry, my sincere apologies, I'm sorry I was driving, and this guy was really mad. And Kwon Jin was just kind of like right behind the truck. And then Kwon Jin turned around and saw the whole situation. Really an amazing situation. Moment, a split-second thinking. I mean, you don't even have time to think. There was no time to think. This brother just got out and put his life on the line. And sometimes, I had many experiences like that, and I know what they're like, because there's a split second that goes inside of you that says, where is my commitment? And where is my loyalty? Because Kwon Jin didn't do anything to deserve this. This is one of those weird things that Satan was just trying to set up just right. But that was the right attitude. That was the right heart. That was really, I thought, an exceptional act of courage and love, and also discretion, wisdom, because he didn't go and try to fight this guy. He just went and very calmly tried to, it's almost, a little bit like Jacob and Esau, right? Esau's trying to kill Jacob and just kind of very politely and very humbly apologizing for the situation. So it's an exciting story. And every day of our lives is very exciting. I commend that brother, Farley Jones' son, and hope that examples like that are very important examples for blessed children and for your children who are growing up, because that's the right attitude. That's being there when somebody needs you. And I know Kwon Jin will never forget that. So in a way, this blessed child didn't do anything for Kwon Jin. He gained the blessing. That's the right attitude. He Heavenly Father presented an opportunity. There was an opportunity, and he was able to re-bless him, because I know Kwon Jin will never forget that. And Kwon Jin was very impressed by this brother's courage and love. That's what we all live for. That's what we live for. That's what I live for each and every day. I try to look for, I want to be ready, and I want to be ready in every possible way, in trivial things like a piece of chewing gum in the back seat just so in case mother wants it, all the way up to, stuck elevators or driving people, or in every possible way. And not only for father and mother, but also for true brothers and sisters. That's the life that we live, and it's an exciting life, because if you're ready every day, there's going to be an opportunity. Out of nowhere, there'll be an opportunity for you to act and save the day. And even better than that is to save the day in some unglorified, in some unknown kind of way, because then it's really only between you and Heavenly Father, and you can still feel just as good about that. So, I hope that I could accommodate my task this morning and offer some words of insight and some of the experiences that I've had in True Family. It's always a wonderful experience to be able to come here and have give and take with you. Truly, I believe that 1990s is going to be the decade in which we do it. I'm absolutely convinced of it. It's almost like a mathematical proof and a historical timeline proof, and this is the time that we're going to do it, and all the evidence is in place. So, together with True Family, and particularly with True Children, transforming us into a higher level, second generation level, to really being sons and daughters, not conditional sons and daughters, and not adopted sons and daughters, but true sons and daughters. You can only learn that from true sons and daughters. Right? You can only learn that from true sons and daughters. There's only going to be one true parents. Right? And father and mother has come to fill that position. Now in the future, all the other positions in the world are true sons and true daughters. That is our title. That is Yejinim's title and Hyojinim's title. That is the title I'm living for. That is the title you're living for and you're living for. Of course, being a true son, it also involves being a good parent to your children and things like that. But in essence, our position in the universe, in the cosmos, is the highest, glorious level is true son and true daughter. That's hard. That's impossible, especially if there's no example. It was impossible to live a good life and a virtuous life before father and mother showed us how to do it and broke through all the roads, all the obstacles. So now true children are here, and the reason why they're important as the one of the four elements of the original four-position foundation for this universe. That's what they are. They are here to help us transform ourselves, fallen world people, all from lost children of God to true sons and true daughters. That's why they're crucial. Every one of them is crucial. And, some of us are more oriented to inheriting an elder, if you were like the eldest son in your family, or the youngest, or the eldest daughter in your family, or a middle daughter, or a young daughter. There are many true children. Because the true children possess, like a sphere, every angle and every direction. And I know that they're going to do their best to live up to that, to their responsibility, and their husbands and wives, knowing that inevitably true children had to have been blessed, and so inevitably somebody had to stand in this position, the husband of the second daughter, but it didn't have to be me. And so I know that there's a difference between me individually and the position. I try not to confuse that, so that I honor that position and